This is Trent Price from T-rizzle's Variety Hour. You're listening to my interview with my good friend, the Grammy-winning Queen of Bluegrass and opry member, Rhonda Vincent. I recorded this interview in Walla Walla, South Carolina on November 1st, 2019. I aired the interview on December 10th, 2019. Enjoy listening. Hello, folks. I'm in Walhalla, South Carolina with the Queen of Bluegrass herself, Miss Rhonda Vincent. Thank you so much for being here, Rhonda.
Thank you.
So, to start off, I just kind of want to introduce you as an artist to our audience. So, could you tell us a little bit about your family band and when you first started playing music?
Sure. I'm from a tiny little town by the name of Greentop, Missouri. It's at the very top of Missouri in the heart of America. And I grew up in this musical family, traced back 5 generations of the Vincent family. So they were playing long before I was ever thought of. And then I started singing when I was 3. My mom and dad were on their way to a birthday party. We were in the car. And they said as they sang it, I joined in harmony. And they said they got such a kick out of it. They sang it all the way there, over and over. And every time I would just sing the perfect harmony part. So from that, they started teaching me to sing. I sang with the group at 5. We had a television show, a radio show, made our first recording. And I just enjoyed a wonderful life of music, traveling with my family.
Mm-hmm. When you first started playing, did you start out with the mandolin?
I actually started out with the snare drum.
Really?
My 6th birthday, my dad got a snare drum. I still have it. In fact, I'm going to set up a little thing at in my Nashville studio. I'm trying to get I have the original snare drum. It was a snare drum, set of brushes, and a stand. Because the Sally Mountain Show was my family band. It was my grandpa, mom, and dad, aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends. So we were called the Sally Mountain Show. And I think it was the only instrument that wasn't being played.
Wasn't taken, yeah.
Yes, yeah. There's a couple of guitars, a bass, a mandolin. My dad played everything, banjo, fiddle, you name it. So, but he's probably said, you know what? Okay, we're going to get you started. So, and I think because of the mandolin is the backbeat, it's the same thing that I'm playing on the mandolin.
Yeah.
Now, I started playing mandolin quite by accident. So you go fast forward to I'm 8 years old. My grandfather was right on the cusp of that, I believe, before he passed. And we played in Marceline, Missouri, at a place called the Frontier Jamboree. It was it was a big cast of this it was like an opry show. And so they decided that whoever didn't play an instrument, like a lot of the bass player, his wife would sing too, and everybody got $10 each for the 2.5-hour show each Saturday night. And so the guy, as a way to cut down on his expenses, he said, if you don't play an instrument, you don't get paid. So that probably cut down almost half, probably, because there's a lot of singers and that didn't play instruments. So my dad said, here's the mandolin, here's G, C, and D, and you're going to play this every Saturday night for 2.5 hours. And then he would pick me up from school, and we'd play till dinner, and after dinner, friends would come over, and we'd play till bedtime. So that's when he would go, take it, Rhonda. And I'm like, take it what? So after a while, you start working out. I would slow down that. Now, you're probably too young to know what a vinyl album is. Maybe not They're Coming Back, but it's a big round thing with a hole in the middle. And you could slow those down. Now we have the app that's called The Amazing Slow Downer, does the same thing. But I would slow down these albums and learn these breaks. So when it came down to the nightly jam, when he said, take it, Rhonda, I would be ready for that. And from that, I started learning to play.
Yeah. Well, I actually have the LP version of Pretty Fair Bluegrass.
You do?
Sally Mountain Show.
Where did you get that?
I found it online.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to play a song from that.
Oh, my goodness.
One that's kind of become your signature song.
What's that?
The Mule Skinner Blues.
Oh, my goodness. Is it on there?
It is.
I can't remember which songs are on which album.
It's got a 13-year-old Rhonda Vincent on the cover.
Wow.
Could you tell me a little bit about that song?
Well, I recorded it first when I was 9 years old. I had a single. Now, this is a smaller version of that round thing with the hole, and it's a bigger hole in the middle too. But so my first single was when I was 9. In 1974, I won my very first award at the Society for the Preservation of Bluegrass Music of America, and I won Single of the Year with that song. I just remembered wondering, it's like, how do they even know about this? I guess from my family playing,
Yeah.
And I just remember being so confused. It's like, wow. And Mom got me a beautiful new dress, a long white sparkly dress. I don't think I'd ever had one exactly like that. She stacked my hair. She jacked it to Jesus, and I remember walking out on the award show and winning that award. So,
yeah.
But and then I guess we must have recorded another version, and I need to go. I forgot about that. So it's on Pretty Fair Bluegrass, and I think that's from 1976, if I'm remembering right. I think it was a bicentennial year.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, I wanted to ask you, who were your musical role models as a child?
Well, of course, my family, my dad especially, but, spinning. He had a car wreck when I was 2 and broke his neck, was paralyzed from the neck down, and not expected to live, let alone ever walk. But he gained his mobility by using a cane, but he couldn't chase after us, so I think that was his way. He just kept us close by. Now, we listened to everything from the Osborne Brothers, Bill Monroe, the Grand Ole Opry, Jimmy Martin, Jim and Jesse. We loved all of their music. Mm-hmm. So the Osbournes were probably the greatest influence. We tried to emulate everything that they did, from the harmonies to the musical arrangements and everything. So as far as influencing the music, they were the greatest, Bobby and Sonny. I mean, I've listened to Dolly Parton and Loretta Lynn, for the female role models, but my dad sitting and working with me every day and singing all the songs, he would sit there and sing all these different songs. I remember he would sing it, "Down in the West Texas town of El Paso," and that's a very long song. Mm-hmm. And I would just sit and cry because that's such a sad song. But seemed like he would do that occasionally. He didn't do that one a lot, but he knew all of these different songs. So he was my greatest inspiration, I'm sure. Yeah.
So as your career has kind of progressed to this point, who do you think your role models are now?
I've been very, very fortunate to work with Dolly Parton, and a lot of times I'll say, what would Dolly do? How does she approach this? And just getting to watch her and getting to work with her. One of the greatest experiences of my lifetime was working on Heart Songs. It was a live project. We got to spend 10 days with her. Extensive rehearsals. We would get there at 10 in the morning and work, and she was writing her book at that time, but I watched her take special time with each and every person and visit with them. And I asked her later, years later, I said, well, did you, I didn't ever see her make a checklist, or how did she know? There's probably a crew of 60 people in there. Mm-hmm. Every morning when she came in, she would spend personal, like you and I are just sitting here, mm-hmm. and she would do that with every person on the crew. And I was so impressed by that. And she said it wasn't anything that she planned or even that she consciously, she just consciously went to make sure that she, talk to each person, because she loves people and we love her. So
yeah. How does it feel to become the role model of younger musicians in bluegrass?
Well, as people start saying, my granddaughter wants to sing, or she wants to play like you, or she's interested in seeing what are you going to wear? Yeah, you learn that. Then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I'm not that teenager at the bluegrass festivals anymore. People are watching what you're doing, and you have to be very conscious of that, I think, and make sure that you are a good role model. So that's it's an added responsibility to really think about. And sometimes there's really not a template for this. So sometimes you fail, and sometimes you do good, and you always want to do good, that's for sure. But sometimes it's not what you expect it to be, or someone else puts you in a situation to where maybe you're not expecting.
So one of your first traveling jobs was with Jim Ed Brown, right?
That's right.
How did that come about?
I did the show You Can Be a Star. It was kind of the modern day American Idol in country music, and went to Nashville and did that show. Jim Ed was the host. Basically, I sang my first song, and my mom and dad were behind the curtain. They didn't want them to be on the curtain, but they let them sing harmony behind the curtain. And while they're getting ready to sing, Jim Ed, he introduces me and then wanders back there and starts talking to them. And they're like, we're singing here. But he basically offered me a job, and 2 weeks later, I moved to a partial move, I guess, part-time move to Nashville. Moved in with some relatives and slept on their couch when we weren't on the road. We were very busy. So in addition to working with Jim Ed Brown as one of the Jims, I would also work with my family, the Sally Mountain Show. Wow. I'd fly into festivals and play. And about that time, when I wasn't there, my dad discovered this young lady over from Champaign, Illinois, mm-hmm. and he hired her to come play in my place when I wasn't there. Mm-hmm. She wore my clothes. We looked a lot alike, because she told me later, she's like, man, if you got blue shoes, I would get blue shoes. And now that I look back at it, it's like I looked at a picture and I didn't even realize it wasn't me, because our hairstyle was alike, and that lady is Alison Krauss.
Wow. So the Sally Mountain Show discovered Alison Krauss.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And then I came back in the fall. I worked with Jim Ed April to October of 1985. When I came back, she stayed on for a little bit, and we'd play twin fiddles.
Wow.
I don't think she was even singing at that time. She was just playing.
So then, how many years later you started your group, The Rage?
Well, in the meantime, in the 90s, I had a chance to do some country music. I met James Stroud in the midst of making some albums for Rebel Records. So mm-hmm. I went to Nashville, I didn't move there, but I was there a lot. I did a couple of country albums, and I feel like that was my musical college years. Like, you're in college. Well, I wasn't really in college, but I was here working with the best of the best. From management, Jack McFadden, it was in the heart of Billy Ray Cyrus's achy breaky heart days. I got to see how all that works, how the big machinery works. Writing songs, booking agency, management, publishing, and so learning all of that. And so I came out of that after 5 years and 2 albums later, and I said, okay, it's like out of college and see this is coming for you, and you say, what are you going to do with your life? People are like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And so I put together my first band just really for fun. I got home, and it's like, okay, where am I going? I was like, let's just get together and play. And from that, it's just like everything seemed to, because in country music, the pieces just didn't fall into place. So I put this band together. We started doing festivals. I signed with Rounder Records. I signed with Keith Case Agency. I won my first of 7 consecutive, and now 8 female vocalist awards at the IBMA, the International Bluegrass Music Association. And then I got a sponsorship with Martha White. So from that, it was just like kind of a snowball that, and I still, for many years, it's like, wasn't like content to say, yes, this is what I'm going to do, because it was the unknown. Right. And like, I'm doing this, there was nothing that really said to me, I had performed bluegrass music and sang all of my life with my family, and in your mind you think, I'm supposed to do something different. And basically you ask God and say, what is my plan? What is your will for me? And finding that will. And then not only he says, okay, this is what you're going to do, but you have to be willing to follow that will. Right. Not just say, here's your will. It's like, okay, maybe I don't want to do that, which is not a good idea. If God tells you to do it, you probably want to do this. Right. You definitely want to do that. And so anyway, it wasn't until years later, and we were, making more money, and our house got paid for, and our bills are paid, and then I said, wow, this is what I'm going to do with my life. Yeah. And I love it. Yeah. I love it. I'm very, very content and very blessed and so thankful. I travel with a world-class band. There's been many different collaborations of the Rage, but always looking to put together the ultimate group. And I feel like finally, this is the ultimate group of the Rage. Yeah, well, it's very good. Thanks. And they have the longevity. Hunter's been here 19 years, and Mickey 18, and the rest of them, I think, 11 years each. Josh, Aaron, and Brent. So. Yeah. You said that you got sponsorship with Martha White. You traveled under their name for about 15 years. Is that right? That's right. And you just kind of stumbled across that, didn't you? Well, I did. They did a contest. Yeah. They had sponsored Flatt and Scruggs before, and Tennessee Ernie Ford, and I think even Dolly at one time. But they had this jingle contest, and I missed the deadline on it. But we were in the studio. I was recording The Storm Still Rages, and they had some extra time, and the musicians were sitting around saying, well, do you have another song? It's like, well, I don't really. I said, but you know what? I've always wanted to record the Martha White theme. Mm-hmm. And they didn't even write a chart. They all ran to the booth, and we cut that pretty much live. And I spent 6 months looking for a contact. You don't just walk into Martha White and say, hey, will you sponsor me? Yeah. So it took me 6 months and just asking people all the way around. And finally, somebody said, hey, I know the lady in fact, it wasn't in an office somewhere like you would think. She was in a retirement at the Villages in Florida. Really? And she worked at a satellite office down there. The company was in a different place. And they were based out of Minnesota. It's just very unlikely. Anyway, I wrote to her, and I told her that I had taught my daughters to cook using Martha White, and that I had recorded the song, and I would love to represent Martha White. And she wrote back, and basically they'll ask me to do seminars on sponsorships. It's like there's not a magic formula. It's almost like a contract. Mm-hmm. The contract can be anything you want it to be. You make it up, and you make it. There is not a one basic template in life for anything. Mm-hmm. And what I learned is you make it what you want it to be. And she said, what is it that you want? I said, I need transportation. And so from that, they leased a bus, mm-hmm. A tour bus for us. And then 15 years later, we continued to be sponsored by them and sang their song throughout the shirts and everything, and just loved it. And I'm so thankful to them. They really gave me a leg up, right. As far as traveling and having the transportation. Transportation is a large portion of your costs right. when you're touring. So they really helped in that aspect, and many others. So now you head up the most awarded band in bluegrass. That's no small feat. It's pretty awesome to think about that.
Yeah.
I have a place in Nashville, a new place, and I've gathered all the awards. People are coming in there, and we've filmed now several different things at my house. And because I just piled them all in one room, I finally got them all together from various houses, and they're all in one room. So it's pretty overwhelming. I want to get them archived, and then I got to figure out what to do with them. So if you have any suggestions, let me know.
All right, I will. You were talking about Hunter Berry, your fiddle player. I actually use Hunter's song "Wow Baby" as the theme song for my radio show.
Really? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about a couple of your notable collaboration projects. First, "Your Money and My Good Looks" with Gene Watson. Can you tell me about making that album?
Well, I started recording with him totally by accident. I think I'm pretty much a by necessity or, seizing the moment kind of person. I went to a show of his in Nashville at the Nashville Palace, and I got in line to meet him that night, and the line was so long and the bus was getting ready to leave, so my bus was leaving, the Martha White Bluegrass Express at the time. So I left, and I met his manager, and his manager said, "Hey, he's working on a project and we'd like you to sing on it." And so I went in to sing on it. He wasn't there. I still hadn't met him. I went in to sing on it, and I'm singing on the choruses. It's a song "Together Again" that Buck Owens did. And he said, "Hey, just start at the very top and sing all the way through with him." And I said, "But it gets too high in some places and too low in others." And he goes, "Well, just switch the parts," because he said, "It's just going to be the two of you." So I did that. And I was just learning the song, I felt. I think I did it twice. And they said, "Thank you very much." And it's like, okay. I didn't even feel like, I would want to sing it more.
Right.
But they said, "Thank you, that was great." Next thing I know, it's a duet on his project. The Grand Ole Opry calls and says, "Gene Watson's going to be on the TV portion of the Grand Ole Opry, and we would like you to fly in and do this duet with him." They loved it. People, every time they heard it, they loved this. It's like our voices are the most unlikely that you would ever put together. He sings with a great vibrato, and I don't sing with any vibrato. My dad thought that was a sin to sing with any vibrato. So to put our voices together would be like the most unlikely pairing that you've ever heard of. But there was a magic from the first note when we sang. So anyway, I'm going to the Grand Ole Opry. My flight is delayed. And when you do TV, Grand Ole Opry, you have to be there in the afternoon for camera blocking. I missed that. I thought, and finally when the plane took off, I landed. I walked in the Opry just as he was going on stage, and we walked out to the circle and sang this song without ever meeting, and then we got to say hello. So it was one of the most bizarre things ever. From that, then it became this growth, and you could see this growing popularity, and it's like, let's do a project together. And it has been one of our best-selling albums of all time.
Yeah. Could you tell me about the album "Only Me" with Willie Nelson? What was it like to be in the studio with Willie?
That was so awesome that I got to be there with him and to watch him in action. Willie, what I love about Willie is he's exactly what he, it's what you see is what you get. It's kind of like Dolly. Willie's the same way. He is who he is. And I think he could sing anything, and he doesn't try to alter his voice or his style. But you can give him, I think, any song, and he can sing it. So he sang the second verse. I was really impressed with the fact that he can switch harmonies quick. Not everybody can do that, but let me tell you, Willie Nelson can sing a lead line and switch the harmony for the next line. It is possible with him.
Yeah.
So I was very impressed with that. And then to see him take his guitar, that is such a popular or a very familiar guitar to a lot of people. And I got to sit there and watch him. He takes the second guitar solo too.
Yeah, that's pretty special.
It was amazing.
Would you tell me about the American Grandstand album with Daryl Singletary? I've heard several times the story about you writing the song for the title track. Could you tell me about that?
We thought about the title, or I came up with this title before we ever had a song. And I called him, and I researched, it's like, we know what American, we're both Americans, what does grandstand mean? And I looked up the meaning of that. I forgot what the definition is, but I said, you know what, that really suits us. I just like that title, American Grandstand. I thought, like grandstanding is like waiting for applause, I think is what, if you look it up in the dictionary, one of the meanings for it. And I said, yes, we're Americans waiting for this, exactly what we are. I like that title. He said, I love it. So we made it the title. And one day, just before we did the photo shoot for it, the album was done, and I just started singing this song. We packed it up to say goodbye. So I had it partially written. In the middle of the photo shoot, I said, hey, Daryl, I think I may have written the title song. Do you think we would want to record this because it's already done. It's going to be more expense. And he goes, well, whatever you think. Well, I wrote it. I don't want to be the person who chooses this. But he said, whatever you think. It's like, okay. He couldn't be there for the recording session, the tracking session. So I went ahead and tracked it. He came in and sang it, and he just said it was his favorite song on the album. Yeah. So I'm so thrilled, after his passing, that we got to do this project, that I got to sing it, I got to write this song, and I always sing it at our shows in dedication to Daryl.
Yeah, it's a very special project, especially since he has passed.
Oh, yes.
But that photo shoot was kind of eventful, too, wasn't it?
It definitely was. The photographer forgot to get the permit for the park in which we were shooting, and they brought all these bags of fireworks. They were going to shoot fireworks off behind us. If you do see the photo, the original plan was fireworks were going to be shooting off behind us. And someone noticed all of that. They thought we had explosives, and we didn't have a permit, and the police came, and next thing we know, and it's like, we're lucky that we even got to shoot, because they were going to shut us down. He said, listen, you don't have a permit, you can't shoot off the fireworks. And so we just kept shooting as fast. He said, all right, go ahead and finish up. So we shot the rest of the pictures, and then we had to get out of there. But almost went to jail just by doing a photo shoot for them.
So it is getting close to Christmas. I wanted to play the 12 Days of Christmas song.
Oh, yes.
And it features quite an array of artists. Dolly Parton, Willie Nelson, Charlie Daniels, the Oak Ridge Boys, Ronnie Millsap, Gene Watson, Bill Anderson, Larry Gatlin, Jeannie Seeley, Lori Morgan, Pam Tillis, and Emmy Sunshine. What's it like getting that many artists together to record a song?
That was one of the most challenging songs and most expensive songs that I've ever done. I don't know what I was like. Herb's all about economics. It's like, what do you do when you're just costing? I said, no, this has to be done. Mm-hmm. It's going to be so fun to get to do this. So it was so challenging to put everyone together, to get all the permissions, to schedule all the studio time, and I can't come here, I can do this, and can you do this over here? Can you send a track? And so I had to really just to plot out who's going to do what line. Dolly sings 8 Maids a Milkin', and Willie sings 11 Pipers Piping. I started looking. It's like these people. These are the lines they have to sing, and specifically. Right. So it was so fun. It was really a labor of love. But man, was I glad when that thing got done. It's kind of like our Live at the Ryman. That's the most costly project I've ever done, and the most tedious in trying to get all of these people together. All of the sync license. I mean, there's so many aspects. People have no idea. You get this project, you have no idea how many hours and how much worry goes into every one of these. But in the end, they're so fun. And I think I've learned now to have the patience. There's learning the patience to deal with this and say, okay, I didn't get an answer today, and I'm not, because before I would have had extreme anxiety. It's like, I haven't heard from anybody. Oh my goodness, what have they done? It's like, you know what? It's okay. We've got this. God is is guiding this, and it's going to be wonderful. Yeah.
So you mentioned the Bluegrass Legends project. You recorded that at the Ryman a few years ago with Jesse McReynolds, the Osborne Brothers, and Mac Wiseman.
Yes.
I heard recently that it was named one of the best tracks ever recorded at the Ryman.
That's right. I couldn't believe it. It's in the top 10 projects ever recorded at the Ryman Auditorium. How cool is that? By awesome. Rolling Stone magazine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are so excited about that.
So what was it like to be, do all that with those legends? And I heard you did some interviews like in Mac Wiseman's living room too, right?
On the Blu-ray, like there's the CD that has just the songs. You get the DVD, you get to watch the show. And then the added content, there's an hour and 45 minutes sitting at Mac Wiseman's house, because we didn't get to really sit around and visit with the legends at the Ryman. It was such a hectic night performing and trying to get all the music and everybody, all the dynamics of that show. So I said, you know what, could we come, Max says, come to my house. And so we all gathered around in his living room, and there's an hour and 45 minutes of added content on the Blu-ray only, because it wouldn't fit on the DVD. They said, we can get this on a Blu-ray. I've never had a Blu-ray before. It's Bluegrass on Blu-ray. Yeah, so it was perfect.
It's perfect.
And it's so that is so special now. So very special. Getting to sing with them and just the whole experience of being around them and calling them on the phone and hearing Mac Wiseman's voice on the telephone. Yeah. It's like you go, oh my goodness, this is Mac Wiseman.
So All the Rage Volume 1, you're right before Bluegrass Legends. and your first Grammy-winning project.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Where were you when you found out that you won the Grammy?
I was on the Country's Family Larry's Country Diner cruise ship. We had been in New York 2 days before for the opening of the Grand Ole Opry in Times Square, and then could not stay for the Grammys. So here we are. We're literally getting ready to sail, and the internet was sketchy, and we're watching the announcements. And it says Bluegrass, Best Bluegrass Albums coming up, and the internet went off.
Oh my goodness.
So we didn't even get to see the announcement. So once it came back up, I'm trying to scroll back down because we're watching it. I'm trying to scroll back down, and all of a sudden I see our name.
Yeah.
And I started screaming, and I started calling. It's like, we won a Grammy! We won a Grammy! Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. So we were thrilled. I just wish I could have been there.
Yeah.
We did get to go, and we were nominated in 2005 for Ragin' Live, and got to go out to Los Angeles. They were in New York for 2000 for that year, for 2018. The award, it's a 2017 Grammys held in 2018. That's kind of confusing, isn't it?
It is kind of like the Super Bowl.
Oh, same way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you've said that Volume 2 is coming. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I mean, Volume 1 was featuring each and every person of the Rage. Volume 2 is more focused on requests. That's probably more of me singing. Songs like favorites like Jolene, I know, is on there. There is the unique arrangement of the Orange Blossom Special that Hunter and Josh and Brent have arranged, and Aaron too, and Mickey. But there's the Orange Blossom Special that people love, and they have this new arrangement of that. I can't think of the other songs, but those are the two that stand out in my mind. I'm very excited about this. The song His Promised Land, it's an a cappella song that we do. And when I first recorded it on the Sunday Morning Singing album, I'd just written it. It's the first time we'd ever performed it. Well, you know, as you perform a song, it starts to take on a whole nother aspect. It's arranged in a little different way. So, and we may have even arranged it differently now. I'm not sure. I haven't listened to it for a while. But I think this version on All the Rage Volume 2 is more like what we have on stage now. On the first one, I think I stayed in tempo, and now I just started dragging it out, and it just depends on each night. My breath, how good a breath I have. You know, it really depends on is how much verb is in the house. And if there's no verb in the house, it's almost like it chokes your breath for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a theory in that, but if there's a lot of verb, it just feels right. And so I'm excited to have this new version on the album.
Yeah. Jeannie Seeley wrote your new single, Like I Could. Can you tell me about discovering that song?
Riding around in a limo, Gus Arundel that owns Springer Mountain Farms had picked us up. We went to Bill Anderson's girlfriend's funeral, and afterwards we're on our way home, and she said, man, I did my first co-write by appointment, where she set an appointment to write a song. She said, I was terrified, but she said, I had an idea, and I said, okay, if I don't think of anything else, I'm good to go. So she called Bobby Tomberlin, Aaron Enderlin. They came over to her house. They wrote that song rather quickly. She sings me a little bit of it in the limo. And it's one of those things, you know, when you love something, you know instantly. It was a love at the first hearing of this song. And I said, oh my goodness, I said, I would love to record that. And she looked at me with the funniest look on her face, like she didn't ever intend for me to be, because she thought it was more of a country song.
Yeah.
And she said, are you sure? I said, yeah. Oh, I love this song. She got home, she even texted me to confirm. She goes, are you serious? Do you really want to record this song? I said, absolutely. And so I did at the very first opportunity. We did a video on it. Yeah. My husband in real life plays my TV husband on it. And I love performing this song, and it's already been a #1 song. It will be on an upcoming project. Right now, it has just been released on YouTube, the video on YouTube, and in digital format.
Yeah. So also wanted to talk about the song Please with Dolly Parton. It's on the Restoration Project, which is an Elton John tribute project, right?
It is. Elton John and Bernie Taupin.
Yeah.
That project is commemorating their 50 years of musical collaboration.
Wow.
So, and you know, he's getting ready to retire. I got to go to his show this past week. So I got to go in 2019 and last year, 2018, and got to meet him. He is just so nice. I just loved meeting him. He was so kind. His show is amazing. So have you ever been to his show?
I've not.
Okay, you have to promise me you're going to go.
I will promise.
He's got one more year. He's doing a 3-year three years to his retirement farewell tour.
Yeah.
So you have to go, because I was so impressed. His instrumentation. A lot of the show is instrumentation. I was so surprised by that.
Yeah.
But and his band will knock you out. They are so well rehearsed, and they are so good. They're so animated. They're interesting to watch.
Yeah.
They're interesting to hear, and I absolutely love them. And I special thanks to Bernie Taupin. He came to our show. He's a bluegrass fan. And from that, we struck up a friendship that has been for several years now. And thanks to him, he invited us to be part of the restoration project that we have. You know what? We're carrying that on vinyl. Do you have that on vinyl?
I don't.
I'm going to fix you up.
That'll be cool.
We have it on vinyl and on CD now.
Yeah. Well, that's a great song with Dolly.
Oh, I love the song Please, and I'm thrilled that we got to sing it with Dolly. It just was recently nominated for collaboration, the award, a collaboration award at the International Bluegrass Music Association too.
Yeah. I always end every radio show I do with a gospel song, and I wanted to end this show with the song that you were talking about earlier, His Promised Land.
Oh, yes.
And, I've seen thousands of people at these bigger bluegrass festivals. I mean, when you sing that song, they're up on their feet, they're in tears. It's an amazing song.
Thank you.
And I know you wrote it. Can you tell me kind of about writing that song?
I can. Interesting enough, when I started telling the truth of how I wrote it, I did this on a TV show, and they said, you can't say that. Don't tell people how you wrote the song. Do you know how I wrote the song?
I don't.
Well, my family was in Las Vegas. I think it was the first time that we had taken Sally and Tinsel on a vacation out to Las Vegas. And we were getting ready to see Carrot Top for the first time, because we love Carrot Top. He's so funny. And I'm in the bathtub. And people said, don't tell them you're in the bathtub. It's like, what's wrong with that? Doesn't everyone take a bath? It's not anything bad. So I'm just basically getting ready for the show. I'm sitting in the bathtub, and I started singing it. When my way was long and all hope was gone, I just started singing that song, and I wrote it down. I went and said, I need to record this piece of it so I don't forget it.
Right.
And I tried to finish writing it, and it just wasn't coming, the rest of it wasn't coming together. And I was getting ready to do, it was 2011, I think, before we were recording Sunday Morning Singing.
Right.
And I sent it to Lisa Schaefer. She said, let's write something. And I said, hey, I've got this gospel song. I really wanted to have it for this gospel project. And she took it and made it what it is.
Yeah.
And I was so thrilled. And ironically, I did this at a sound check. I started singing just the only part I had, and Hunter said, where did you get that song? He said, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So I knew when Hunter Berry is impressed and goes, oh my gosh, that's wonderful, I was like, oh, I'm so excited to have a song like this. And then to see the reaction. I mean, to have a song that almost every time in the middle of the show you receive a standing ovation is really special.
Yeah.
And so I love the song, and I'm so thankful that we have a song that gets that it touches people.
Right.
I mean, people come up and say, my father or my mother were in their passing. As they were passing, we were playing this song.
Wow.
It's very special.
Yeah, special to a lot of people. But I guess that's about all I have, Rhonda. I wanted to tell everyone to follow Rhonda Vincent on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and go to rhondavincent.com to see about her tour dates.
That's right.
Yeah. Always look for the blue check mark to make sure the account you're following is verified. And thank you so much for listening. And thank you, Rhonda, for talking with me.
Thank you so much.